Hey guys, it is Thursday, which means it is my favorite day of the week because I get to hang out with you guys. As you can see, we have a very boring white wall, which means if you haven't guessed it, I am somewhat home now. Not 100%, kind of like 90-10. I still shower at a hotel. I still somewhat work at the hotel, but you're going to see a lot more of this house and this studio over the next couple of months. So for anybody who has been on that journey with me since September, I would love to see you guys either give me a hands up in the comments or a little house emoji or something to let me know if you've been on the journey of living in a hotel and streaming in a hotel ever since then. So if you guys are watching today, whether you're watching this live or you are watching the replay, we have a very, very special guest that I'm excited to bring on and introduce to you guys in just a second. So she actually was, if you joined us for our EverBee holiday party in December, she was one of the guests there. And I wanted to kind of just have a little bit deeper of a conversation with her because she's really big into the passive space and the digital product space. So before I bring her on, I want to let you guys know really quickly that we also launched a how-to digital products kind of full free course for you guys on Tuesday of this week. So if you have not seen that yet, after you're done watching this live stream or watching this replay, please go ahead, head to the YouTube channel, check out our most recently uploaded video because it will pair very, very well with what we are going to talk to with our friend today. Okay. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring in, I know her as Passive Income Angel. You guys probably do as well, but I'm just going to call her Angel. Hey girl, how you doing?
Hello, thanks for having me on.
Of course, I'm super excited. If you just want to do me a quick favor and kind of introduce yourself to the group real fast before we dive into the normal questions and such, let's go ahead and start there. And then we can kind of do like a little kickoff of like how they can ask you their questions.
Sure. So I'm Angel. Some of you may know me as Passive Income Angel on YouTube and on TikTok. And basically, I'm a creator who talks a lot about passive income, specifically with Etsy and Etsy opportunities and print on demand, as well as digital products. And I started out actually as a teacher. So I was an elementary school teacher for many years, for about 10 years. And then we had our daughter. She's 6 years old now. At the time when I started, she was 18 months old. So, and basically we just wanted to add an income stream to our family. Even though we were being really responsible with our income, we, lived within our means. We just couldn't save any money. We were just we felt like we were living paycheck to paycheck. And I got this idea to sell Kabachian earrings actually on Etsy.
Nice.
And I knew it wasn't going to be replace my 9-to-5 because I couldn't make thousands of earrings. But I just wanted to add an income stream to our family. And so I was on YouTube exploring different types of earrings to make. And I happened upon this idea of selling digital products and print on demand on Etsy. And it was just wait, you can actually create a business without inventory, without a lot of risk. And at first I wasn't sure. It's well, is this a scam? Is this too good to be true? Because normally when something's too good to be true, it is. And I looked into it and was wow, this is a real business model that I could scale in pockets of my time with a family, working a 9-to-5 because I was a full-time teacher. And I was able to do it. It wasn't easy in that, it's not like I did it overnight or it involved some front loading. It involved learning a skill because becoming a business owner is a skill because you're putting on lots of different hats, marketing, design, you're learning lots of different types of softwares, things like that. So there wasn't a big learning curve, but I was just so motivated. And I knew, I kind of knew that night. Because it was January 3rd or something.
Nice.
And I knew that night, this is my ticket out of my 9-to-5. This is going to give me the lifestyle that I want to be work from home mom. And really, because when you're a teacher, it really is your whole life. You can't call off without writing sick plans. In fact, you just go to work sick because you don't want to have to write sick plans and get a substitute teacher. And as we were growing our family, I knew I wanted to be there for those milestones. I wanted to see their first steps. I wanted to be the one dropping them off at preschool. Things I couldn't have done if I was still working because I had a 45-minute commute to work as well.
Oh, wow.
And so it was my whole day. And then on the weekends, you're dreading Sunday. I remember just being oh no, it's almost Sunday. That means I have to go to work on Monday. And you just have the Sunday scaries.
Yeah.
And I'm just really grateful that I discovered this business opportunity because it changed my life. So
if you don't mind me asking, this isn't in our normal question, so she's not prepared for this necessarily, but you said a word and I'm not gonna know at all what you said. What was the earrings?
Cabochon earrings. I'm wearing them right now. Here.
Yeah, let me see. I've never even heard of that. Very cool. So are they like stamp earrings or clay?
I actually still make them. I make them for like Christmas gifts and things like that.
I'll send you my address.
Yeah, sure. I've got a bunch of them.
Cool. That's so cool. So my question is then, you said you were kind of researching like what earrings to sell and such. So did you end up going that route still? Like, did you do the handmade for a certain period of time, or did you just find people and you're like, screw that?
Well, here's why I didn't. Is before that in college, I was actually a ceramicist, and I did art shows. Like, I actually have a piece of art I could grab off my wall right here and show you.
Yeah, give it to us.
I made handmade ceramic art, and not like just like anything. It was like
it's beautiful,
really specialized. I went to like big art shows.
Nice.
And I almost got into like the art scene, and I just decided that at the time I was like, oh, I ended up going into education, and I loved it. I loved being a teacher, and that's what I love about being a content creator is because a lot of my content is educational, pretty much all of it. It's allowing me to still be a teacher, but in a different kind of like capacity. But I had already done handmade art. And so I knew the grind of a physical handmade business. I knew it all too well. And so as soon as I figured out, like, actually I could sell digital products, I could sell print on demand products without inventory, without a lot of risk. I was just all in, like, sign me up.
Nice. Very cool. Okay. I love that. I didn't know that about you with the earrings thing. So that's cool because it's something that I did, where actually and a lot of people, watching this know this, that I actually started in the handmade space for about 4 to 5 years. And it was the exact same that I was like, I will never in my life do that again. But it was awesome while, it did what it was supposed to do. It launched this trajectory. It's like, I wouldn't be where I am today on this call if it wasn't for that, so I'm grateful for it. But I also like to know who did that, timeline as well, because been there, done that kind of thing. So that's cool. I love that you were in that space even before Etsy.
I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs that I know, it was like bred in them, like innate. Like, I had my first lemonade stand whenever I was like 5. I remember at school I would make bracelets and try and sell them. I would make paper dolls and try and sell them. It's like I had this innate sense of like, I want to be an entrepreneur. The traditional educational system doesn't like train you for that. And like everyone I knew had a 9-to-5. And so it's like, okay, I've got to go to school and work hard and work for a business. And that's how I'm going to make my living. And now with YouTube and different types of business opportunities that you can scale in pockets of your time, you can actually become an entrepreneur and become a business owner without having a business degree, without having an LLC. You just have to have that passion and that drive and being able to fill a market gap, something that's in demand.
Yeah, I'd be interested to like hear from everybody else. I'm going to use the lemonade stand concept because that's what you said a second ago. So I was in the exact same boat. I've been probably an entrepreneurial spirit since I was born and without even knowing it. I think it also might just deal, like a lot of people know here that I have ADHD. So I can't do one thing. Like I have to do multiple. So I was in a corporate setting for around 11 years. But even while I was in that, if you guys are interested, you can learn a lot more about this. I'm not going to, delve deep into this today, but if you go to the Built Online podcast, which is Cody, our CEO, if you go to his podcast, there's an episode that like really talks about like my backstory and how in the world I got to this, mic today. And it was straight up like I was just doing any side hustle you could imagine during that 11-year period. And then when I got into therapy and I like looked back and being like, it didn't start there. It really was like, I was just doing the most all the time. And it wasn't until I found the thing that like it all clicked for me as to why I had been doing that for so long, whatever that was. Like I did a fashion blog and girl, I know so, I don't know what I was doing. I just did like the most random things. I worked for the Independent Florida Alligator. So it was like, I was a columnist, like just writing and stuff, And then when I found, it's funny you say, like being able to package it into like a business, right? So then I found freelancing which is what I do now. And I've been doing it since 2021. And it's like cool because we were doing like the built online space, and EverBee just recently launched a new kind of slogan or tagline or, mission motto, whatever you want to call it, that every human is a creator and every creator deserves to own a business. And that's kind of what we're doing now, is to try to like encourage them. So I'm going to go back to the little lemonade thing. Does anybody who's watching this, again, whether you're watching the replay or watching this live, I would love to hear from you. Even if you haven't found the thing that stuck for you yet, drop a lemon, an emoji of a lemon in the comments if you are in that space where like you have been like a serial side hustler forever, just like we have, because that could mean that you just have the entrepreneurial spirit that just needs to be ignited. So I would love to hear from you guys. If you're watching this, you more than likely are, but I just want to confirm, give me some lemons. I know that's a weird thing to ask, but drop some lemons, because I think every single person that I've talked to on these interviews or these like conversations all had that, like that we just from birth almost we're like, we got to do all the things. So I love hearing that from your story and kind of confirming my own story as well in our own journeys. So anybody else that has it, drop a lemon, would love to hear it. Okay. So with that said, you mentioned something a second ago that you're like, I didn't do this overnight. Like, I'm glad that I did it. It's changed my life, but there, it doesn't come with its, fair share, or it comes with its fair share of challenges. So I would love to know, you've been doing this for a while, handful of years now. Obviously you have, your family you were trying to set as the most important piece of it. So what were some of those initial challenges that you ran into, knowing that you were in the handmade space, whether it was Etsy or not? You were in the handmade mindset. You were in the 9-to-5 mindset. Like you said, we were conditioned like that for so long. What were the initial challenges that you felt you ran into? And maybe even like, how did you overcome them? Or how did you like, just be like, nope, not going to listen to you, going to keep going in the digital space?
Well, first of all, I will say that I sort of like fell victim to the idea that like it was going to be easy, that it was super passive. And I'm glad that I did. Okay. I'm glad that I did, because if I hadn't known how much work it was going to be, maybe I wouldn't have tried it.
True. Oh my God, that's
and it
so
was
true.
worth it. But it was so worth it. I learned so much about myself as a creator and as a business person, with goals. And I got to meet a lot of incredible people who have impacted my journey. And they're the reason why I'm on this live stream right now. And so it was an incredible journey. So you have to keep that in mind, that it is work. But some of the pitfalls I had at the beginning was not, you don't realize it, but it takes a lot of grit. It takes a lot of grit, a lot of persistence, to keep going and to keep failing, because that's an important part of being successful, is that failure piece, because those are the things that you learn the most from are those failures, and the learning from them, and then improving your business, improving your product, whatever you sell or your service, and improving it based on those failures. So many people give up before they reach any level of success, because they don't have a lot of grit. I remember I put up my first 30 listings and was like, okay, I'm gonna give up.
Right.
Like sure, 'cause 30 seems like a lot, my first 30 Etsy listings, and you just think like, okay, this isn't working. They were wrong. This isn't
the days. Yeah,
they were wrong.
Right.
Without realizing 30, when you're first getting started, I don't care what it is, your first 30 of whatever it is, isn't going to be as good as your 100th or your 1000th, so just getting the reps in and practicing and, making data-driven decisions was really important too. That was another pitfall that I had, was not using data to drive my business. And that can be really powerful.
Agreed. And that's probably the whole, anybody that's watched these, I've been doing this for a little over a year now on the EverBee live streams. And that is my thing I always go back to, is design is super important. Marketing is super important. Obviously I'm a marketer, that's where I am naturally, but data drives all of those. Because if you don't know what designs are performing, you can't design it, or if you don't know what platforms you should be on and why, you can't do it. So you having that data up front is probably my name. Absolutely love that about you as well. And it's funny, I'm going to go back to the very beginning sentence that you said, that had I not believed that it was going to be easy or whatever, I might not have started. So the other day, have you ever heard of aerial yoga?
I have, yes.
Okay, so I've never heard of it, but it's like trapeze and you're like hanging
Mhm.
from the ceiling and stuff, right? So I'm in this weird like personal journey right now where I'm trying to do one bold event a month just by myself, like
Mhm.
get out of my comfort zone. So I found aerial yoga in Lansing, Michigan, and I was like, I'm gonna die, but let's try this, right? And she put it as beginners aerial yoga class. And I was like, all right, that sounds like me because I don't know
Mhm.
what I'm doing. I'm gonna fall, right? So I get there, we do the whole class. I do it like really, really well. And I'm really proud of myself. And I'm
Hey.
like, I'm so strong. We get done. And she's like, all right, guys, if you want to come back next week, I'll see you on Mondays, whatever. And then she's like, and by the way, this was our normal flow. Congrats. So like I did a freaking like aerial yoga class, not beginners. You know what I mean? But if it were to say advanced aerial yoga class, I'd be like,
You're
that's
like,
not me, you know? So it was just very empowering to know that like we always talk on this channel about just showing up in whatever
mhm.
form you can on that certain day and then doing it again and again and again.
Mhm.
So you mentioned like the reps, and I find that to be interesting because, you know, if we applied the same concepts to, let's just say, I mean, working out, like you want to lose weight, you want to lose 100 pounds, you want to gain 20 pounds of muscle, whatever it is, it's not going to happen within your 30 listings, right? It's going to happen within your maybe 300 listings, you know? So I really think that is a really cool like opportunity for us to just sit back and be like, I might be a beginner. Or if you are not a beginner, like let's just say, I mean, Angel, you were a beginner at YouTube and now you're at
Yes.
8,000 followers or subscribers, right?
Mhm.
You know, so it's like we are all a beginner at something all the time, no
Mhm.
matter what it is. Like, especially if we are serial entrepreneurs and we are always like one of my core values is ABI, always be improving. So in whatever form that means, right? So if you are always improving, that means you're not staying stagnant. That means you're always learning. That means you're always trying, right? So
Absolutely.
I really, really love the concept of just putting the reps in. I think
Mhm.
that is a huge like nugget or takeaway from today
Mhm.
for you. So thank you so much for saying that. I love that.
Yeah, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't do either of those well. So
Mhm.
not a runner. Yes, I love that. Love that. Knowing that you did put the reps in for
Mhm.
a very long time, you are now considered, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, but you are now considered a top 1% Etsy seller. Is that correct?
Mhm. I achieved that actually within my first year
Oh,
of being on Etsy,
holy crap.
because I learned early on to apply trends. So
Mhm,
so to understand what's trending, meeting people where they're at,
mhm.
finding an audience and understanding that audience and what resonates with that audience,
Yeah,
and then finding market gaps and
love it.
adding value that wasn't already there.
Love it.
Because as a brand new seller, all I knew was to sort of look for demand. Like, okay, I see this listing as a bestseller, and we didn't have any tools. Okay, we didn't have any fancy tools.
Right. That was back in the
Okay,
day.
all right, we didn't have EverBee.
Yep.
Okay, like so you had to do a lot. It took a lot of work
Right.
to even do like rudimentary research on Etsy. It
Mm,
took a lot of work because
yep.
you were like looking through each listing and like seeing what's ranking, and like we didn't know. Like I don't think at that time it showed us like now we'll tell you like this listing has sold 500 times
Right.
in the
Right.
last 24 hours, or it all we could see was like if someone had it in their cart. So
Mm,
that was the only indicator that we had to know it was in demand,
wow.
other than looking at the recent reviews. And so you had to be on Etsy looking and seeing like, okay, who's adding what to their carts. And
Mhm.
that was our only way to find demand.
Dang.
And so initially all I knew was to, okay, this ant shirt is doing well. Okay, I'm going to make my own version of an ant
Mhm,
shirt. And in the beginning, I didn't understand design, so
mhm.
I just threw like clip art on a shirt with like whatever text I felt like using.
I love
And
it.
it's so funny because I am constantly like assisting people with their shops and auditing their
Mhm.
shops, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that was me at the
Yep.
beginning, because you look at it and you're like, they have no style.
Mm,
Like they're not applying trends that are in demand. They're not in
mhm,
niches that are in demand. But I was there.
mhm.
I remember,
Same.
um, even though I was working a ton, maybe I was even working more than the competition, but
Mm,
because I wasn't applying these, making these data-driven decisions,
yep.
I wasn't getting the traction.
Yep.
And so once I discovered, okay, what trends were, how
Mhm,
to apply them to my to my designs, how to find micro niches, and using the concept of high competition, high search, but low competition, micro niches and niching down. Once I figured all of these pieces out, because it takes a little while to figure all the pieces out, it was like I unlocked it. It's like, oh, I can do this again and again and again. And I learned how to kind of pay attention to the calendar. So if I'm designing for Christmas, I'm doing it 3 months in advance. I'm not doing it in November.
Right. We had someone ask, I think, you were there on the holiday thing. They're like, is it too late to do for Christmas? And it was like December 12th. And we're like, yes, girly, get for Valentine's Day.
Yes. And then I also really started paying attention to the news cycle too. And niches that people were really passionate about. Totally. And before I knew it, I had listings featured in Huffington Post. I had listings featured in Good Housekeeping. I had huge creators on Instagram with 1 million+ followers, just like randomly wearing my stuff, and people were coming to my shop looking for it. And it was happening again and again and again. And it was because I was showing up early and I was paying attention to trends and market gaps.
Yeah, there's actually this saying that I've done in my business just pretty much since the beginning is the hardest worker doesn't go as far as the smartest one does.
Yes.
So, I mean, I like you said, I could put the hours and hours and hours of reps, and without AI back then, and without softwares, and without, SaaS tools. So you were putting even more hours than our girls and guys are doing now, because like, it's still, I mean, I can still go deep on a design and deep on a data, day all day long, but I only have to do that in a fraction of the time that we had, to do it 5 years ago. So putting in all those reps, doing in all that extra work, doesn't necessarily mean we are going to make it, right? So like doing, having just because you have 1,000 listings, or just because you have 300 listings, doesn't mean that you're going to do as well as someone that made 30 intentional qualified listings, So I love that approach. So you mentioned at the beginning, you were like, I love the clip art thing. That's hilarious, because I laughed because same. So, we've been doing this since 2017. So that was what was there, back in the day. We didn't have access to Canva or whatever back then. Right. So knowing that was something you struggled with, like, how do you approach product selection and design, like selection and stuff now, going forward, like within your current brand? Like, what changed, I guess, from back then, other than using Clipart, of course, but like, what really changed from back then to now, especially now that you have access to all these tools and such?
I'm really good at tuning into trends and recognizing the patterns early on Etsy, as well as other websites that drive trends. And that's been really helpful. I thought that, like, I do think that it's something that, like, once people are on Etsy and they're really on there researching daily, like, anyone could do it. Agreed. And I didn't really realize that, like, I can talk like a trend language until I was recently coaching someone, and they're like, and I was like going through the trends I was noticing, and she's like, how do you do that? Yeah. I'm like, oh, like, isn't it obvious? Right. And I think that a part of it for me is that I like you, Leslie, I'm neurodivergent, and I have ADHD, and we're really good at recognizing patterns because our brains are like constantly like firing out information, and we're picking it up fast. And so I'm really good at just spotting like trends before they're really, really hot. And then also like how really smart sellers do this, taking different trending aesthetics and combining them. So for example, coquette, which is bows, with the retro checkers, with vintage, with grunge, with university font, which is trending right now. And they recognize that all of these different aesthetics are trending, and then they combine them to create a really unique, value-driven design that's in demand.
Agreed.
And so that's just like one way, but it's just paying attention to the trends, and then also the niches that people are actively searching for. That's why I do recommend keeping an eye on the news cycle, because the top selling shirt right now on Etsy is a news cycle driven shirt. Nice. Because it's some of the top designs right now, if you're in the digital space, are news cycle driven because people are really passionate about it. And when passion really trumps inflation.
No pun intended.
That's a great way to beat inflation. It is people are really still going to put their money in products that they're really passionate about.
Agreed.
So that's why it's important to focus on evergreen niches that like people are really passionate about their occupation. They're really proud to be a teacher. They're really proud to be a doctor. Their hobbies, they're really passionate about their hobbies, but also the news cycle, activism, the political sphere, but also understanding that audience. Who is that audience? What does it look like? Where do they hang out? Social media. I've definitely have had some of my bestsellers be inspired by memes I've seen on social media for a particular audience. So once again, going back to the audience piece and understanding your audience, what resonates with them, hanging out where they hang out online. So yeah, there's a lot of pieces to it.
No, I love it. And also while she's saying that, that's a perfect segue into talking about our Facebook group real fast, because I have a resource that I just put in there. I want to say it's like last Thursday, I believe. So like a week or a week and a half ago that you guys are seeing this. So go into the Facebook group. I think it's called, let me just double check before I give you guys absolutely wrong information. It is, I think it's EverBee Etsy seller EverBee growth. Hold on, let me find it real fast. I definitely should have this up at all times anyways, but all right. So it's called, all right, go this again. There we go. EverBee members Etsy seller growth. And that might change soon because we are obviously built online now, but nonetheless, go check that out. EverBee members Etsy seller growth. Simply because what we're basically doing in there is I created a resource that is answering every single thing that she just said. So it is a audience research resource is what I called it. Say that 10 times fast. I've tried. It's hard, but go in there and it's basically going to give you 7 different sections with 3 to 4 corresponding questions about your ideal audience. So we're going to talk demographics, which is obviously their age, their gender, their income, their lifestyle, etc. But it also goes into the more important pieces, which she's talking about is psychographics. So we're also going to get into what makes them tick. What do they like? What other brands do they like? Where do they hang out online? And then once you kind of have all of those answers, it's a lot easier then to trend spot because you're already knowing who you're serving and why you're serving them in the first place. So if you aren't already, please go jump into that Facebook group. It is completely free. There's about 35,000 of us in there. I am obviously the person that's going to be kind of going back and forth with you guys in there. But you're also going to get access to those kinds of additional resources as well. So while we're hitting on at high level here, the Facebook group is going to deep dive a little bit for you. So make sure you go check that out as well. Okay, so with that said, I want to really quickly segue into what I believe makes you unique, Angel. We could talk about Etsy all day long. We could talk about trend spotting, designs. You know, we've had a lot of people on here on the channel that do all of those things superbly, very, very well. You, however, bring, and so did Philip Anders from a couple weeks ago, bring something new to the table that I do in my daily my daily business, but we don't talk about it a lot on this channel. So I want to make sure that we highlight the power of AI and how you can utilize it as a tool, as a resource, as a, not a crutch, but like a support system, rather than, I think when things started happening, especially in the freelance space, being a freelancer myself, I love it. Like, I think it's awesome because it's making me work smarter, not harder, right? Like we said a second ago, the hardest worker doesn't always go as far as the smartest worker. So I want to know a little bit about how you have utilized AI in your own kind of like passive income strategies. And you can talk about YouTube, Etsy, whatever you want. I'm sure you probably use it for all of them, but like, what do you utilize AI for in your businesses? And are there any particular resources or platforms that you swear by that you pretty much use on a daily basis?
So big time ChatGPT. I use ChatGPT a ton. You know, or I call him Chatty. I use Chatty all the time. Chatty. Yeah, that is definitely like basically co-owner of Passive Income Angel.
Always my favorite coworker.
Yes, my favorite coworker. Definitely ChatGPT. I get going back to that audience piece, which is so important because once you hone in on an audience, you go from like basically trend chasing to trend setting. And you can use use ChatGPT to learn more about your audience. So like maybe you're going to sell to millennials. You want your audience is going to be millennial moms. Then you would ask ChatGPT, like, where are the top social media sites I should be following, I should be a part of, to learn more about this audience and what resonates with them.
Smart.
Because it really can make a big difference. So, like, for example, if you were attacking the St. Patrick's Day niche, if you do any research on St. Patrick's Day and where the money is being spent, it's mostly millennials and Gen Z is where most that's the biggest spenders for St. Patrick's Day. And so then you would go, okay, well, where does this audience hang out at? Where can I learn more about what resonates with them? They shop at Old Navy, they shop at Target. So I'm going to be paying attention to those. Who do they follow online? Things like that. So even AI can help you with targeting your audience and what's going to resonate with them for sure. And then I use AI a lot of AI generation for my designing now. I think it's an incredible resource because I can create a design that no one else has. That before I had to rely on third-party sources to source those elements. So actually the dress I'm wearing today is created with AI.
Oh my God, let me see. No, that's so cute. I love it.
This was
very cool.
My catalog.
That's awesome.
And I have a video in my YouTube, on my YouTube channel, Passive Income Angel, where I walk you through how to create an AI dress. And I created it because I noticed that the words cottagecore dress was trending. And it was high search, low competition. And then I'm like, okay, I could create a cottagecore design with AI and list it with print on demand. And so this is like a real world, like this was created with AI. So I use it in my designs. I use it for lots of different trend research. I don't rely on it for SEO, but I use it as a resource.
I think that's something that our girls and guys have fallen victim, is the best way to put it, is they'll be like, oh, well, we have this awesome resource, which we do. We love the freaking resource. We love Charles. We love Chatty, whatever we're calling him today. But they will go there and be like, what are the 13 tags that I should use on Etsy? Or what is the title, 140 characters that I should use on Etsy? And I want to caution everybody who is watching this, do not do that, because we love Charles. He's amazing, but he's also like 2 years in arrears. So that is not going to be 100% what you need as it relates to the search engine optimization strategy. But I use Charles for pretty much everything else. So like we were the other day, I want to say like 3 live streams or so ago, we were looking up a niche, and it's funny you say the cottagecore dress because I found that day too, which is kind of funny. And then we also found like a coastal cowgirl, and it was like instead of rhinestone cowgirl last year, we're going cowgirl this year, so it's more teal based rather than pink. So it was really fun things to look at. Someone asked me the exact same question: how in the world do you do this? How do you find these things? And she was in the dog space, and she's like, how do I possibly break into something that's less saturated in something like the dog space? And I straight up was just on the live stream. I like literally just went to ChatGPT right there with them and was like, tell me the top 10 dog breeds that are luxurious show dogs that people will spend a lot of money on and are very loyal. And it just started listing them all out. And she was like, I have to go do this now, you know? So not necessarily the tags for the dog stuff that we want to do, but more so the ideation and like what kinds of, like what Angel was saying, what kind of things would do well in this space, what would they buy, and then we go out and kind of do the due diligence from there, utilizing EverBee if you guys so choose, or anything else for that matter, that you can basically just perpetuate what the AI provided you. So I love that you brought that up, because I think a lot of people rely on, sometimes too much. I think I have like 0 critical thinking skills sometimes, because me and Charles are like, he can really do it all for me. But when it comes to the SEO, I want to very much so caution you guys to not utilize that, but utilize it as a starting point. And then utilizing things like EverBee or even just Etsy itself, and just doing your free research on Etsy to find those things instead.
Absolutely.
Sweet. Okay, cool.
But still, this is like an old school hack, but it's still really relevant. It's just using the Etsy search bar and like using different combinations and seeing what populates, what generates, because it's showing you in live time what people are actually searching for. So if you're listing in the bachelorette niche, you know, bachelorette, take the time to do this. Type in bachelorette in Etsy and see what populates next. what are people actually searching for? And then if you have the EverBee Chrome extension, it will show you how many searches, so you can see the volume. And it can give you long tail keywords, keyword ideas. It can give you really like low competition, but still higher searched ideas, long tail keyword ideas. So I mean, that's like rudimentary, like you forget about that resource. It still works, guys.
Yep. And I also pretty much every single time we do like a niche research or a product research video here, I always start with the search bar, like you just said, but I also always start with gift mode on Etsy. It's completely free. You literally, I mean, I would love for you guys to join me at EverBee, of course, but you don't have to have EverBee to access gift mode. You straight up go into Etsy, click gifts. It's at the very top right there under the search bar. And then that is literally an entire collection of Etsy telling us what people are looking up, what types of people are even on Etsy, what types of people are gifting things to, and what they like. And then it literally breaks it all down. That's exactly the process that I took when I found Coastal Cowgirl, because I was just, I ended up, I don't know, I went down a freaking rabbit hole, but I somehow got to Nantucket, and then Nantucket took me to Coastal Grandma. And then I was like, I don't really care about that per se, but like, then it took me to Coastal Cowgirl, and I was like, now we're talking, now we're cooking with gas, because I know for a fact that Rhinestone Cowboy did really well last year. So I was like, Coastal Cowgirl, well, it just makes sense because like you said, trend spotting. So I love that you utilize that very efficiently in your business as well. Are there any other ones? I asked Philip this question the other day, so I'll ask you too. Are there any design tools that you recommend? Or are they more so like a little bit more advanced? We have a little combination of like beginners and advanced people here. So I want to make sure we're not like sending someone to the dogs or to the wolves, but is there anyone that you believe makes a lot of sense for people that are watching this today?
So for AI specifically, I still love Midjourney, and I have an entire live that I did with Technically Trent on my YouTube channel. If you go to my live streams, and we'll also have it in the description box, or just come. I'll be on this live when I'm on live right now, and just comment trendsetter. Okay, comment trendsetter below, or anything like that, and I'll make sure to give you guys the what is it? Oh yeah, the link for the live. I'm like, wait, where was I going with this?
No, you're good.
the link with for the live, and we go all into tips, tools that we use for AI, beginner level, advanced level, amazing thumbnail hacks with AI that can really help your listing to stand out on Etsy that I never even knew about. So definitely check out that live, because we dive really deep into AI tools for Etsy sellers. But I definitely use Kittle's AI generator is actually really good. I use that one quite a bit. Midjourney, ChatGPT's AI generator is actually pretty good too. I really like that.
Since 4.0, I'm actually kind of like obsessed with these. They turned out really good.
Yes, no, I really like that too. And I also use ChatGPT to generate prompts for images. Agreed. That can be really helpful. And then if you use Midjourney, they have a discovery page because I feel like the hardest part for breaking out into AI generation and using that as part of your designs is the prompts, because you're like, you could spend an hour, right? And you can never generate an image that like would actually even sell. And so like, it's like, well, is this a time saver? But with the discovery page, whatever idea that you have, you can search and see what other prompts people have used. And you can get a lot of really amazing prompt ideas that way. So that's another like big hack for AI image generation is using that.
I love that. And I'm so glad that you said that, because it's perpetuating that I've said in the past too. And it's perpetuating what Philip Anders said a couple weeks ago. If you guys didn't see that, also feel free, just go to our live playlist. You'll see the conversation I had with Philip as well. But the prompt, and in any way that you use ChatGPT or any AI, anything, the prompt is the most important thing. If you basically do the right input, you're going to get the right output, is the way I look at it. So I actually kind of hack the system like Angel does. And if I don't, let's say I've used Playground AI, for example. So I went to Playground and I typed in this thing that I thought was cool. Was not. It came out really weird. And I was like, this is not at all, like, my brain has this idea of what I want, but I can't communicate it. So then what did I do? I went to ChatGPT. I took the pictures that they gave me and I was like, this is not at all what I want, but we're going in the right direction. Give me the right prompt to give Playground to get the right picture. And within literally a couple seconds, he's like, all right, you messed these things up. Say this instead, popped it into Playground. Perfect image afterwards. So I really, really think I didn't even think about that because I do it every day. But like you said, when someone asked you about the trend spotting, you're like, you think that's just natural because you do it all the time. Right. So I'm glad you brought that up because the prompt generation in ChatGPT for the AI image generator is something that I do every day that I didn't even think about bringing up. But I know for a fact now that we've talked about it, it is something that could piss you guys off. It would make you so frustrated if you are in there all the time. And then me and Angel or the theys that we talked about earlier, they're like, they lied, you know?
Yes.
So
they said that this was a good idea.
Right. They're like, what is AI generator? It's not working. So I would say like that is a big tool that I personally use AI with is basically like using AI twice. So you're like using it to prompt and then you're taking that prompt into a image generator. So I love that you brought that up. Very, very cool. Okay. So speaking of, you just mentioned your live. So it's a perfect segue into, I want to talk about your YouTube channel a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you have a YouTube channel that is really focused on POD. It's really focused on just passive income strategies for your business in general. I saw that you're starting to bring a lot of people on as well, like just having other minds, which by the way, guys, coming soon. You might see us over there. I don't know, maybe one day. So stay tuned. But I want to know a little bit about like what resources or like how do you come up, because I have a lot of people on here that are looking to do multiple things in the online space. We have a lot of people that are that I say just lightly because it's a full-time job, but that are just content creators, right? So how are you coming up with the right topics to talk about? Because I think it's a very interesting conversation into the audience piece as well. So it's like, I feel like you know your audience on Etsy like the back of your hand, or you wouldn't have hit top 10 or top 1%. How did you get to the audience for your YouTube channel? Like, do you feel like you've cracked that yet? Do you feel like you used the same strategies of finding the audience elsewhere? Like, walk me through that journey a little bit.
Sure. So first of all, Etsy to me can be a stepping stone. Whatever platform that you sell on, so whether you're an Amazon seller, whether it's Etsy, whether you're just a content creator on YouTube, so wherever you're at in your space, master that one platform well. Okay, master that one platform and then take it to another platform, because a lot of those strategies that you used for the first platform will apply to any platform thereafter.
For sure.
You know, obviously it's a little different scaling on Etsy versus scaling on TikTok versus scaling on YouTube, things like that. But I learned on Etsy, I learned about adding value. I learned about making database decisions for my business. And finding market gaps and outliers. So I learned that on Etsy, and then I took what I learned on Etsy, and at first I took it to TikTok, and I actually grew crazy fast on TikTok. I have over 50,000 followers. I admittedly haven't been on it recently. Since they announced the ban, I really pulled back, and I haven't gotten back on. I need to get back on because it is still such an amazing resource and teaching tool. And that's one of my goals this year in my business, is to get back on TikTok and to get back into small not small, but short form content. And so I took what I learned from Etsy and I grew really fast on TikTok because of those strategies that I learned. Where what I was doing was I was looking for videos that were popping off that were outliers, not necessarily even in my niche. And I went, well, what about this video is resonating with people? Is it the sound? Is it the style? What is it? And so I would sort of take that idea and add new value to it, add my sub niche, my micro niche to it. And then I took off. I got, videos with over 1 million views. And that's basically what I did on Etsy. Exactly. I looked for those outliers. I looked for where there's demand. And I provided new value to the market that resonated with people. And so now I'm doing that on YouTube. Now YouTube has been a bit of a slower game for me. I am a full-time mom, and it's so hard because I want to do all the things. I want to be scaling my Etsy business.
Right.
I want to be on YouTube. I want to be on TikTok. I want to be on Instagram. But I have to keep in mind, like for right now, because I have a 2-year-old. Every year that he gets older, and of course my daughter, she's 6 now. Every year that they get older and more independent, I'm getting a little bit more time on my hands to scale each business.
Got it.
So even though you can do something, doesn't mean that you should. So there's so many things I want to do. There's so many things I want to do. But the whole reason why I did this to begin with was for more time with my family.
Right.
And so right now, that's where my priority is. And then my Etsy shop and then content creation is built around that.
Nice.
And every year I'm growing with that. So YouTube's been a bit of a slower game, but part of that really has been like a mindset thing where I'm like, okay, I need to be doing this and this. I need to have the editing perfect. I need to have the scripts perfect. And that can really limit you rather than just like getting it out there. And so that's something that I want to focus more this year is just being more consistent on YouTube and growing more. But mostly as far as ideas for my videos is I look to see what is sort of trending in the Etsy niche on YouTube, what's in demand, where are the outliers. So even if there are popular people who have 500 videos on YouTube in this niche, what are their outliers? Because that's showing me that like the algorithm is pushing out that content because it's in high demand.
Nice.
So that's a piece of it. So making data-driven decisions, but also I am part of the Printify Sellers Club, and I do a lot of coaching with Etsy sellers and sort of meeting them where they're at. And so I'm getting a lot of ideas from that as far as coaching. So that's one way I get a lot of ideas, and just being in some of the Facebook groups and the common questions that are asked. So I tailor some of my content towards that as well. And then live streams, it's called the Wednesday Grind. Every week at 1:00 on my YouTube channel, Passive Income Angel, and I bring on really successful sellers that have been selling for 2 years or 5 years or 6 years on Etsy and have found a lot of success. And it's just an opportunity for Etsy sellers who want to grow to ask them questions live. So they're getting to get tips and advice in real time. And then I also, you can watch the replays. And then I also put that to a podcast on Spotify and on Apple Podcast.
Very cool. I love it. And you mentioned something a second ago, like with the YouTube piece, you're kind of like, same, dude. I have like 350 subscribers. So like nothing to talk about, but it's the, what was holding me back for like an entire year was everything has to be perfect.
Yes.
The topics have to be lined up for 90 days straight. The editing has to be superb, blah, blah, blah. And then I was just like, no, I feel, and you might feel the same, that like I am doing a disservice to my community by not showing up.
Yes.
By just getting something freaking live. So I wonder, I'm going to ask you this because I have my own thoughts and, feelings and whatever advice about it. But I wonder, we have been talking a lot today, and we talk a lot on this whole channel all the time about like data-driven decisions, doing the right research, etc. Like quality over quantity sometimes, but also sometimes quantity is just, better if you can just get a lot out there, right? So I wonder if someone's watching this right now, do they feel as if we are kind of contradicting ourselves because we're like data, spend all this time, but then we're like, get something live immediately and don't worry, So what do you feel is like the good balance between those two?
The good balance, that's a good question, because a lot of people, there's this argument too, even in the Etsy community, in the creator space in the Etsy community, where people are saying, no, don't worry about getting 100 listings up. You focus on research and data and taking courses and things like that. And then you'll be successful in Etsy. But you do have to have that balance, because if you're not going to win the game unless you're in the game.
Right.
And so you do need to be listing. And your 100th listing is going to be so much better than your first listing, because you're going to get faster at it and you're going to learn from your mistakes. And so I think that that's true with YouTube too, where it's a balance where you don't want to just throw anything out there. You want to be paying attention to your analytics and to what's resonating with your specific audience on that platform. So like on YouTube, I still need to be paying attention to the videos that are doing well in this niche. and learning from that, because you're reverse engineering the search traffic and the demand. Like what do people in this audience want to learn about? What do they need? So that's an indicator there. But then also getting enough content out there and getting enough reps in so that you're making quality content.
Right. Exactly.
So I don't know if that answers it, but
no. And I completely agree. And I think the main takeaway is it's a gotta be a perfect combo of both, where you are not just throwing stuff out there and then just being like, does anybody want to watch me? Or does anybody want to buy this thing on Etsy? Right. It's very intentional, but I almost feel like personally, I could be wrong here, but I love data up front when we have data to look at. So like you said, being find outliers, for example, or being able to do trend spotting at Target, stuff like that. But I really, really love data that's mine. So I'm going to personally do whatever I can to make sure that the thing that I got out there was intentional enough. And then I want to confirm or deny that with the data. And then I want to do it again. And then I want to confirm or deny it with the data. So I really think personally, I think it's more so the reps that you kind of put in so that you can build your product, whatever that is for you, whoever's watching this, that you can build your product perfectly rather than just like, I think some people might get paralyzed a little bit by the data, by the research. So it's so much of like the upfront stuff, which is very, very important. But I also think, like she said, you don't even know like if you're going to win, if you're not even in it in the first place. So you can get as much research as you want. You can do as many trend spotting reports as you want, but until you test it and until you jump into that gap that she mentioned a second ago, you will not know if it's going to perform. So I would just caution you guys to like take what we're saying and like find your perfect balance as well. And then I also want to say, when we're talking about perfect balance, Angel made a really, really good point as well. And I'm in the exact same boat, guys, where like for the first 3 years of my business, which obviously I've been doing this since 2017, but like full time, for the first 3 years full time, I was like balls to the walls. Like you could not tell me to sleep. Like I was doing the most at all times. And quite frankly, it was like really, really hurting me physically, mentally, emotionally, everything. And it was always like the next thing. And it was always like the shiny object syndrome and blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
And I think this year, 2025 for me, like she mentioned, her goal is like to get more back on TikTok. My goal is to get off of things personally, simply because I love the idea of being like making your business work for your lifestyle as well.
Yes.
So she mentioned a second ago that like I got all these things that I could be doing, but like my family is like the most important thing right now. And, you know, same, like whatever that looks like for you. So I also, while we're balancing the time that we are investing into work, I also would love to see you guys balance the time you're investing into work, if that makes sense. So, because we are trying to build.
Replace your 9 to 5 with a 24/7.
Dude, same. That was me. That was so me. Oh my God. I remember like I was crying hysterically to my husband, like when I quit my full-time job and I was like, I am working more, so much more than I ever would have in that.
Yes, take care of your mental health for sure.
Exactly. 100%. Okay. Well, we have just a couple more minutes before we hit the 11 o'clock mark. So I just have one more question that I think is perfect for what we just kind of got off of. And you might have obviously just did it as well, but I'm going to ask again. For those that might be hesitant to take the leap into e-com, whatever that means, like just a digital entrepreneurship for them, or obviously passive income streams, which you're really, you know, prominent in, what encouragement or advice would you close us out with today?
I know that it feels risky. It feels risky, like you're taking a risk, but do something every day that scares you. And until you do that, you're like, it sounds very like cliche advice, but there are so many things I do every day that scare me. Like being on this live right now is like a little scary to me. Yeah. I stutter a lot. I talk too fast because I'm neurodivergent. Like I'm in every direction. So it's like, I'm not the ideal person for this, but it's okay if it's scary. It's okay to make mistakes. Take the risk where no one's making it out alive, guys. Okay. No one.
So true.
Take the chance, take the risk, because if you don't do it, you'll never know. And I don't know anyone who take risks like this, who go, I wish I hadn't done that.
True.
I wish I had started my Etsy shop. I wish I hadn't started my YouTube channel. I wish I hadn't started my Amazon business. No, never. They're always like, oh my goodness, I'm so glad I took the chance. I'm so glad I took the risk and tried something new that took me out of my comfort zone, because I never would have known I could have done it if I hadn't done that. So take the risk, guys.
Love that. And even if like all the like the three things that she mentioned, even if it doesn't give you the numbers necessarily that you want, like we talk about data all the time, you will gain so much. And I think we discussed this like 2 or 3 weeks ago again. Like you will gain so much more confidence by just showing up. Like just, like coming to this
Show up,
live stream, for
be
example.
consistent. Yes.
Yeah, like Angel's going to be able to, even if it's only a little bit, like Angel's going to be able to go to the next live stream that she does with somebody else, like with that much more confidence, even if it's only a small amount, like just because we showed up today. So I love that. I think that is fantastic. Angel, before I let you go, I would love to know where we can find you. We mentioned your YouTube channel a second ago. You guys will also have a couple of links in the description of this video where you can engage with her further. But is there anywhere else that you want to send them?
Sure. Yeah. The Wednesday Grind podcast, the Wednesday Grind Etsy Success podcast. That's on YouTube on my live stream, as well as on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. So catch me there. I'm also in the Printify Sellers Club. We'll throw a link down there for that. Yeah, that's pretty much the big places to find me.
Okay, easy peasy. Well, thank you so much for being here today. I knew when I met you in December, we only had like 3 questions per person, so I knew back then I wanted to dive even deeper. And I learned so much about you today that I didn't know, which is awesome. And I think you provided so much incredible value for the team here. So thank you, most importantly, for being here. And thank you guys for being here as well and giving me your power hour every single Thursday. We're back in action next Thursday with a standard training. And if you guys have anybody, by the way, who you're interested in learning from, feel free to let us know. If you want to hit us up in the Facebook group and you have someone like Angel who you respect so much and you watch their YouTube videos all the time and you think they could benefit this community, that is what this time is here for. So feel free to let me know in the comments of this video or in our Facebook group. And until then, we'll see you next time.